Okay, well, good morning, everybody. And thank you, Kim Stuckey, who is the director at DESE for dyslexia, for joining us today. I know this is still an area that many schools have questions on and are always wanting to learn about. So we really appreciate you coming on today and sharing any updates or additional things you might have for us.
My pleasure. I'm trying to get to my share screen here that I want to, there we go. And so I didn't plan anything formal necessarily for this morning, but I did want to share with you and just kind of walk you through the resources that we have on the dyslexia page. I think sometimes it's just a recurring question that we have. Where do we find things? I think a lot of folks think that the work is housed in special ed, and it is in curriculum. So I just thought it might be a good idea to just kind of step you through some of the things that are on the website, and then I'll give you a plug for a few things that are coming up so that you can put them on your calendar. So let's see here. Share the screen. Here we go. All right. Are we seeing that? The DESE homepage?
Yep.
Okay, great. So then my page is housed again on curriculum. So from the homepage, if I go to educators, it seems to be the path of least resistance. The fewer clicks, the better, right? So in curriculum, come on, there we go. And then here on the side, whoops, we're in college and career readiness. Oh, I flipped over to curriculum again. All right, and then here is dyslexia about halfway down the list in alphabetical order. And then, so if we just kind of look at the page here, what I try to keep, updated are kind of the latest and greatest free resources out there, particularly with this past year with COVID and things like that, with schools and teachers scrambling to, either pivot to online or hybrid sort of instruction, or what kind of things are out there to help me kind of make this transition. I linked up a couple things there. Amplify continues to offer a lot of great things through their literacy hub that are free. Really Great Reading is another place where I like to send educators. They have really high quality stuff that's either low cost or free. And so those are two things that have kind of, and there are other sources out there that again have put out resources and accessible things and they've extended them usually through the end of this school year. So where everything is really housed, though, is in this quick links box. So some of these pieces are, kind of a continuous PDF, and the look of this is probably going to change. Here I am sharing it with you, but it's probably going to change a little bit because they are overhauling the website. But all the resources will remain there. So about dyslexia is just kind of a general overview. Discusses, the definition, what we have in state statute. There's a little handout here, a little PDF on what structured literacy is, kind of, and what the components are. Resources here, let's click on this and see. So this is a collection of websites that I like to share with teachers or with families. And Florida Center for Reading Research, it continues to be a go-to. Again, lots of nice free resources, rubrics for going through and vetting curriculum, and intervention pieces, from the K-5 even to the K-12 audience. So that's really great. National Center for Improving Literacy is grant funded. So that's through the National Institutes of Health, and it continues to add additional resources as well. They have some graphic novels and some great resources for families, as well as updates on what's going on at different state levels across the country. Intervention Central, RTI Network, all of those things you're probably familiar with. And then these other resources are nice for families. So let's see here. The guidance document is there. That hasn't necessarily been updated since it was first released. We have added a couple sample letters, parent letters, that schools can use as templates or kind of pull straight from the website if they would like to use those. And then our PD options, I did update one piece on that this year, but they are pretty much the same as they have been. So if you're looking for professional development, there is a mandate for 2 hours of professional development for K-12 educators every year. So we tried to provide some really high quality things here. We divided them out according to things that were free, some things that were high quality for cost. And again, so there's just a lot of different opportunities here. We often send folks to the Reading League, which has a YouTube channel and lots of great intervention pieces and PD around almost any content that you'd want to listen to, whether that be multisyllabic instruction or, you know, teaching comprehensive strategies, fluency, any number of things there. North Carolina also has some really nice pieces, University of Arizona. So those are PD options that are, some are broad, but really more targeted to our elementary folks that might be doing some work with these students. And then this is just a PDF regarding data collection. So we're collecting dyslexia screening data in the June cycle every year, and that's end of the year collection. So whatever benchmark you've used for your end of the year screenings, we're collecting that in June. And so there's just here, this is a PDF on kind of what that process looks like, the different designations that we're using for students. And so we do collect that every year for all kids K through 3. And if you have trouble, if you are the person that might be working with your central office folks who manage that core data thing, we do have another kind of flow chart about how to get the systems to talk to each other so we've collected now for 3 years, and we're still trying to kind of, no, just 2 years, 19 and 20, I'm sorry. So we'll collect again in 21. So collecting over the last 2 years has just been really challenging. I'm sure that this year is not going to be much prettier after, what a tumultuous time this has been. So if you are the person, again, who has to talk with your central office or talk with someone who uploads that data and they're having trouble, then we have another document that I can share that kind of walks through that process so the systems can talk to each other. This is just a copy of House Bill 2379. 2379 is the dyslexia screening law. So that just really talks about what the requirements are by statute, and then gives the definition, again, of dyslexia that was adopted and codified in 2017. 16, I apologize. The RPDC map, we linked that up there because sometimes folks were not, I was getting a lot of requests from parents about, where can I talk to my school about getting some training? And so I just linked up the RPDC map so that parents could see kind of how the state was divided in those regions and, kind of where their center might be, because we do have a team of consultants at each of the RPDCs that work through not just the dyslexia mandate, but also do some really in-depth professional development, full-day workshops, as well as the Voyager Sopris professional development course called Letters. So those opportunities are available kind of ongoing depending on the availability of those consultants. And then the screening organizer, we updated that most recently in 2019. I think that it's probably going to remain really where it is. Again, this is just a resource document. It's not a requirement or a recommendation of any kind. Schools have the autonomy to use whatever screener they feel is most appropriate for them, but we really felt it was important and appropriate because of the mandate to put out a list of resources that are really high quality, that are predictive and reliable, and as well as some classroom diagnostics for those students who are going to flag on that universal screener. We really wanted to, again, provide some really strong guidance and direction as to what the next steps might be for those students. So, and this has really laid out kindergarten through 12th grade. Our mandate again is K3, but as you move through this, you'll see that we've gone ahead and added some resources that you might want to look to for the 4 through 12 audience. So that's been, again, available since about since shortly before the mandate went into effect. So I apologize, there's going to be some noise in the background here. And we certainly don't want to put the headphones back on. So some reopening considerations. This was a document that we put together last summer in anticipation of fall screenings for you know, either virtual or hybrid type situations, because we received a waiver at the end of the year in spring of 2020 for any of those end of the year screenings that we were required to do. However, we did not receive a waiver for fall screenings. So any other screenings that were required were not waived for the 2021 school year. So we put it together a document, again, just kind of, it's very informal, but just kind of with some things that we had gathered from some other states, and in working with some of the larger school districts, again, some rural school districts as well, on some things to think about when you were working through that with this fall. And then letters information, because it was just taking up too much space on the main page, I put together some letters information. And again, that's an in-depth professional development program that we offer through the RPDCs. It does fall under a IDA certification. So if you're looking for really targeted professional development that's not curriculum based, then letters is a really great opportunity. There are scholarships available through IDA that cover that material and face-to-face trainings. So we also have university credit available for that. Another thing that we started offering in the fall, because we weren't able to get together, you know, face-to-face to do any workshops or any professional development, was monthly virtual office hours. And so the second Wednesday of every month from 3 to 4 in the afternoon, we have Dyslexia Virtual Office Hour. And I've brought in, we had our first session in September, and that was that reopening PD that we provided. And then starting in October, we are having guest speakers come in on any number of topics and discuss either comprehensive screening, database decision-making, you know, direct instruction around phonics or phonological awareness. We're having our second session next week with, did a session last month for adolescent strugglers. They're going to do another session next week. Those are being recorded and housed on the DESE website. I can show you that really quickly as well. So if you are on the curriculum page, here is the here's the calendar where we house all of that. So here is next month's Dyslexia Update and KU Center for Learning. And if we scroll down, if you click on this, and then it'll give you the link to join that meeting. And then recordings and meetings are being housed here. So it's just this little tiny button that you can see, and that takes you to an external site. But all the content areas are having these monthly meetings. And so you can see, again, by content area, where all of these are being housed. And then if you click on them, so if we look at, I'm not sure why March is not here, but here is, here's the list. Oh, there it is, March is here. So tools and recordings here, so you can see the slides from March and the recording from each of those. So that's something that we'll continue to do through the through July. We have it booked. April again will be part 2 of secondary strugglers. May we have someone from Glean Education coming in. We haven't quite decided on the topic yet. June is going to be comprehension based with Nancy Hennessy, and then July is going to be administrative focus with Patty Montgomery from Schools Cubed. So she's going to really talk about systems and structures at the administrative level and implementing the science of reading. So that's kind of what's happening, you know, the website and what's happening in the dyslexia office right now. Fast and furious overview.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I think that was very helpful. I'm going to start off with some clarifying questions, and then I'd love to open it up
Sure.
for the group to ask as well. So I'm not inside the districts right now, and so I wanted some clarification on the 2-hour requirement. Is that for every staff member, or is that for people who in a district are in charge of dyslexia? They should be offering that, or what is the requirement there?
So the expectation is that every teacher, every educator, K-12, will get 2 hours of dyslexia-related PD every year.
Okay. And so when you shared that calendar with different events from the Reading League and resources,
Sure.
so those would be the things that you would say. Could it be someone from the district could put that on, or it could be that they could attend something? So there's a lot of flexibility in what that could
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. There's flexibility, and there's no requirement that you use a DESE resource to do your PD. We've had schools who have taken their K2 reading coaches and done a book study over the course of an entire school year, and then shared their information with their staff. We've had we've had our consultants through the RPDCs, when we were doing face-to-face trainings, would go out and provide those 2 hours to a district. We could break it up from a K6 or a K5 and 612 audience. So there's any number of ways that you can kind of customize that, but districts are free to choose how they implement that.
Great, thank you. Questions from people on the call?
Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Shauna. Question. I was going to ask a clarifying question too about the 2 hours that was. So thank you for asking that question.
It's a question that still pops up quite a lot. And there's new staff too, so that folks come into districts and they're in a new position, and now it's their responsibility to provide that or to make sure that that's getting done. So there's a lot of clarification that happens around that.
So Kim, with that, you shared, and I think that was a great matrix of, even though it's not an exhaustive list of what people have to do, but you have that screener matrix of, hey, if you don't have something in place, here's a lot of different options you could choose from. Is there a specific, once kids or districts have used this screener, and let's say they've identified some kids who are dyslexic, is there a specific template or process that you would then, besides tightening core instruction and making sure that they're getting exposed daily to that, is there a specific template, or in the past there's reading improvement plans for other kids?
Right.
Is there a specific plan or template that districts need to be using to document beyond the state core data that they send to you?
There's nothing that the department has put out that's required in terms of that. There are some districts out there, and I think about Columbia and the resources and kind of again, I talk about systems and structures that they've put into place, and Janice Schmidt has done a really remarkable job, and so much so that they actually put it into a book. But we provided, if in our, let's see, I'd have to find the link to it, but she came in for the summer professional learning series last year and talked about their columns, and how they make decisions based on their screening data. And so if a student, according to whatever protocols they're using, if student scores below a certain benchmark that they've identified, then they get X intervention. And if they are below a certain benchmark on another screener, say if they're low on a phonological awareness screener, then they get this intervention. If they're low on a fluency screener, but their other foundations are well established, then they get a different intervention. So they have really structures and processes put in place that are very specific to those foundational skills. And again, they have she has a resource that they actually published called Matching Reading Data to Interventions. Another resource that I would send you to that is relatively inexpensive is Susan Hall's book. And I'm just going to turn my back on you for just a moment, and I'll share the cover. I actually have both of them here. And so this is Janice Schmidt's book, Matching Reading Data to Interventions. And you don't have to use that. Certainly, if I can link up the recordings from this summer, and you can see her demonstrate what her columns look like. And then 10 Success Factors for Literacy Intervention is Susan Hall's book, and Susan Hall is from the 95% group. And this is very similar in really looking at that data. When you're going through with your students. She references DIBELS because for years she was a DIBELS trainer. but you can still look at those foundational skills and apply them to match your interventions. And so those are some really nice resources if you're looking for kind of next steps.
So,
But
but
try not to reinvent the wheel.
right, but what I do hear you recommending that schools should really consider, and then I'd love to open up for people on the call if you'd be willing to share some of your systems, because it's all about collaborating and you know, stealing our good ideas from one another. But you are saying, hey, schools really need to have a process or a system once you get that data, that we're making sure we're intentionally providing some follow-up intervention for those kids. So I'd love to hear from anybody on the call. I know we've got some brilliant people on here that might share. Is there one specific practice or one thing you're doing that is very helpful, whether it comes to screening, collecting the data, or providing interventions to kids that for the good of the group that you would recommend?
Well, I can talk about what we do in Camdenton a little bit. We use universal screeners such as we use iReady in the K4, and then we take that and break it down. We also pull in we use Really Great Reading in K2. And so we use their surveys to identify where the kids are falling out, and then our title teachers are being very purposeful and intentional in their interventions with those kids. And it's a fluid group. So as they start on the next diagnostic that they do, if they do better, then those kids are coming out and moving other kids back in. But we're in the process of looking and developing a deeper intervention system in our district. If anybody uses FastBridge, I'd love to hear anything about that, because we're looking at that, and we're also looking at Panorama for our overall intervention. So if anybody has heard of anything about that, I'd love to pick someone's brain also with that. But we're in the baby steps. We did, going back to our dyslexia training with our teachers, we made a module on our Canvas system for all teachers, and had everybody join, and then they got to pick and choose the different things that would apply to them in that course and watch that, and they would log their hours. We're also looking at, we have KickUp and making like little choice boards of different courses that they could sign up for, and that will that is even easier with the accountability of keeping track on who's done it and who hasn't, because they have to sign in.
Those are great ideas, Cheryl, especially on capitalizing on the remote environment we have been thrust into, using that to your advantage to do some asynchronous. And I love the choice for teachers, and hopefully that would speak to the choice of that we can provide that for students as well. And I also love that I was just thinking, when you talk about interventions too, I guess one of my, from a consultant perspective, is utilizing your PLCs. I could even see a group of kindergarten teachers looking in that data and saying, do we have 3 or 4 kids who have some of the same identifiers? If you're a district who has a title teacher, awesome. But I know some of my urban districts don't have that. So it might be even up to that kindergarten team to say, hey, what's something, could you pull those 3 while we take these kids and do, you know, sharing kids, or just making sure that could be yet another avenue maybe to try to just figure out how we offer support. Anybody else on the call like to share any great ideas or have any questions?
Cheryl, I was just going to see if you could repeat those last 2 like platforms that you said for that you use asynchronously with your staff, because that would be like super helpful for us, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure, we use Canvas as our LMS for our high school, and we also use it for our teaching. So Canvas, you can create Google Classrooms if you're a Google school for everybody and do the same thing. And then KickUp is another platform that we use, and we our administrators use it with our like our walkthroughs and that kind of stuff. But we also use it for PD, so you can create little courses or classes that they could take, badges, whatever, and then they sign up for those through KickUp.
Thank you. And did you have like a primary resource that you already liked that you were using for the teachers to choose what courses to take? Like, I didn't know if you had one you really liked, because I'm looking at several. So
We took a lot of the things from the state. Our assistant superintendent had attended several different meetings, and she chose things that she felt were the most important, and we broke it into different categories and grade level spans. We've also added that really great readings, got some great webinars out there now that we've added that will for our younger grades.
Yeah, and Kim keeps adding to the chat. So she has added the 2 books she referred to and a link. I'm assuming it's probably to some of those PD. Or Kim, do you want to speak to what you added there? Oh, hang on, you're on mute. Can you unmute?
Muted. There we go. I was able to find the hub for the summer PLS, and so this is where you can see the recordings and the slides from that series. And we had Janice Schmidt come in from Columbia Public, talk about again their processes, which again aligns with what's in their book. And then she shared some data and some of those things. They call it the columns. And so those are all in there, and you can see that kindergarten column, first grade column, second semester column. And then also there's some data and some slides in there from Pilot Grove and also from St. Charles Public. And so they really overhauled their universal screening system, and the data that they shared with us was really remarkable about how they really had a turnaround for a lot of their kiddos.
Awesome.
So I just wanted to link that up since I found that. Again, there was a tab on the curriculum page that said summer PLS that led me there.
Awesome. Well, we thank you so much for your time. Any other questions from the group?
Clarifying again on the mandate of the 2 hours, when is what's the deadline that needs to be done?
It's a great question. Yeah, thank you. There's no, you can do that at any time over the course of the school year. There's no deadline for that. Thank you for asking. I forgot to mention that.
Thank you.
And I think my other big takeaway is that core data that's due in June as well. And making sure that people have a plan for that, and working with your DTC or whoever in your district can upload that core data, that we've got to make sure that that's in place. But I just want to thank everybody on the call, great ideas, and for your willingness to share of how I know, Kim, that districts are going to continue on trying to refine their processes.
Oh, yes.
Not only screening, but then determining what interventions they can use. And so I'm hopeful. I will, in a couple weeks, I'm going to look at that hub you sent with Janice Schmidt and maybe just post that video, because I think that's a great resource for people it's always easier when we see it, right? Everything's replicable when we can see it with our 2 eyes to really think about some concrete ideas of systematic approaches that people have taken. And I hope that in the future, I'm going to keep coming back and trying to bring people together to share some of the great processes as you guys have done today. Because I think it's just a mountain that a lot of schools want to get better at, but it's hard when juggling so many, so we can capitalize the great things that people are doing. So I might also, Jana is the one at Columbia Schools who's doing that work, because I know who she is. Awesome.
Yeah, reach out to her. I'm sure she'd be happy to.
No, I'm like, maybe
share.
I can even ask her to come on and do a little demo. So we could just ask her some insider questions of how they got started. Because I think that'd be very helpful for the group as well. All right, well, I have somehow lost my Zoom screen, so I don't know how to end my meeting. Eventually, I can see your faces, and I've lost it when I opened that document hub. But thank you so much, everybody on the call. And Kim, thank you so much for your time.
All right, thank you. Have a great rest of your week, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.